Welcome to Something More to Podcast, where we move through topics wherever the conversation takes us. I'm your host, Richard Collins.
And I'm Adam Culbertson. Pretty big news for me, or to me, is my favorite novel series. It was sci-fi novel series that I've recently got into the past year. Is Expeditionary Force by Craig Allenson.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling you about it a little bit. Yeah. For the longest time, everybody's been trying to on the X-Force subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's been wanting Expeditionary Force to become a TV show. And a handful of months back, we all signed a petition to see if we could get it to become a TV show. And this past week, Craig Allenson put out a newsletter saying that Milmar Pictures has signed to make it a TV show. I mean, Milmar Pictures is by Terry Miller and Andrew Marlowe.
Not familiar with those names offhand.
Between them, they've written and or produced Air Force One with Harrison Ford.
Okay.
Good movie.
Yeah.
End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
And the hit TV show Castle with Nathan Fillion.
All right then.
So I'm hoping that they translate the book to a good TV show.
Well, all in all, it sounds like they have a pretty decent pedigree when it comes to producing things.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know. There's no news on what network it's going to be on or anything like that. I'm kind of hoping that they end up going with Netflix or something.
Yeah, I know I was going to say, at this early stage in the process, it's probably not decided as of yet. Yeah. They probably still need to actually make a pilot and pitch it around to a few places.
Oh, definitely. And they just signed to make it a TV show at this point. So.
Right.
But I'll definitely be keeping up with that. But Expeditionary Force, it's like a alternate. I don't know exactly where in the timeline it starts on Earth, what year it is or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like modern day technology and everything. I don't think there's anything advanced or anything in it's just our modern day.
Right.
And the main character, it's following him in his story, Joe Bishop.
Hmm.
And it starts with invading aliens come in and they destroy the entire infrastructure of our world.
Yeah.
Shuts down our trade, destroys a lot of our resources, makes it to where we're not very functional.
Sometimes it feels like in actual modern day, it really wouldn't take very much for that to happen.
No. It really, really wouldn't. You would think. But, those aliens, they're Ruhar, and they're hamster people. They call them hamsters. I haven't actually seen any artwork where people have their description of it, but they're just basically humanoid hamsters.
Are they described as smaller or
they're bigger? They're bulky.
About human size.
Yeah. No, if not bigger.
If not bigger.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining really buff, ripped hamsters.
Yeah. No, I picture gerbil. Their entire body is just one size the whole way, and then just the big just hamster heads. That's how I'm picturing it. But their enemies are the Kristang, which are lizard people.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kristang talk the humans, the human leaders to join them to fight against the Ruhar. and becomes the United Nations Expeditionary Force. And they get sent out into space to train on an alien planet like light years away. And then they get put on another planet to basically occupy it. And it's a Ruhar planet that has a bunch of civilians, but over the years it's been wars have taken place on who controls that area and all that. But right now there's just civilians basically there, and the Kristang are wanting the humans to basically round them all up and get them into a ship and send them back to their people, and so the Kristang can take over the planet.
Right.
And one thing leads to another. Joe Bishop comes across a elder AI, and it's the elders are long gone at this point. Nobody has ever heard of them, but their elder technology is everybody wants it because it's far beyond what anybody else can do.
Why is it always ancient civilizations that are just super advanced?
Yeah. Yeah. And the AI is just a cocky son of a bitch. That Bishop named Skippy, and he's the shape of a beer can. Like he's just a metal cylinder. And it's pretty cool because Skippy, he can't fly a ship, he can't kill anybody, like he can't shoot weapons at anybody or anything like that. But what he can do is he can basically just hack into everything, every network, and he helps Joe Bishop get a bunch of prisoners out, steal a ship, and like he can't fly, so like he does all the subsystem stuff. And where the humans can press a button and then they take off, or press a button and it fires missiles and blows up another ship or something like that. So there's limitations to Skippy, even though he's this powerful, magnificent being that's godlike.
Right.
But he has limitations because it's in his programming. But I'll stop it there. But it's a really interesting sci-fi series that I'm on book 7 now. There's a new book coming out in May, actually. That's kind of a side series off of it, following a different crew.
It does sound really interesting, and you know, I'm not going to purport to try and say, oh, well, you know, may be able to fill that void that Firefly left a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like it kind of seems like it's, I don't know, maybe like an epic sci-fi kind of in the vein, at least as far as like scope, to like say Game of Thrones in a way.
Yeah, there's a whole tier of aliens, and like humans are at the very, very bottom, but they're accomplishing really just unbelievable things through Skippy and Joe Bishop and the Merry Band of Pirates, because that's what they're called.
And especially depending on like the quality of it, I mean, it could be a really good, you know, placement for it, since, you know, Game of Thrones is coming to a close.
Yeah.
Like final season now.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. First episode of this season was so good. So many things happen. So many just everybody's together, like in one place or the other, like in the two places, like everybody is, most people are in Winterfell though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like it's definitely coming to a head. Like things are definitely starting to wrap up. And you know, it's one of those things where I don't really want to get too far into it. I know spoilers are a really touchy subject for people, and being this close in, like still within a week.
Yeah. It hasn't been 2 weeks.
Hasn't even been a week yet.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely don't want to give any major spoilers.
Right.
And a lot of people do wait for the end of the season or later in the season just so they can watch more episodes at once, because it is, when we have access to everything that we want for entertainment just at the touch of a button, it's hard to wait week to week on an episode, especially when people like Hulu or Netflix, they release their series out all at one time so you can just binge watch it.
Oh yeah. And the funny thing is, like, I find that, okay, so if you look back, traditionally, like a lot of shows would kind of leave everything on like cliffhangers whenever there was a break, just to kind of whet people's appetite, keep them interested. Or sometimes you would even get that like episode to episode a little bit. But it kind of feels like that whole thing has been kicked into overdrive with like this whole like binging culture. Because you look at most of the Netflix shows, especially the drama-based Netflix shows, even the dramedies, like the comical dramas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every single episode like ends on some kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah, it does. They want you to keep watching.
It's like don't pay attention to that automated message. Like, are you still watching? Like, they know you're still watching.
Yeah, they are.
They just want you to click a button every so often.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you're still alive over there.
Yep. Oh man.
Yeah, it's so hard when a new season of something comes out on Netflix not to just binge the whole season.
Yeah. And usually it's you can get through it pretty quick.
Usually, yeah. Most shows it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Like Santa Clarita Diet came out with its third season recently, and I mean I binged all of that within a night.
Yeah. See, I've been because Game of Thrones came back out, I added that to my Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It's just the easier one for me to do.
That's fair.
So I'm trying to use this time in between Sundays. I'm watching all the shows that I've missed while I haven't had HBO.
Yeah.
Like Silicon Valley.
I'm
like halfway through Silicon Valley season 5 right now.
So good.
Yeah.
Such a good show. Just amazing. And have you checked out Barry at all?
Barry, it's on my watch list. I added it. I saw that there's 2 seasons of it. I remember
the second
seeing
season started like a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
Like end of March, I think.
Okay. Because I remember seeing the trailer for season 1 somewhere. I don't remember where, but I saw it and I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a good show.
Oh yeah. I mean, Bill Hader is just
yeah.
great.
I like Bill Hader a lot. I loved him on Saturday Night Live. I like it whenever he does guest appearance.
Oh yeah, I mean he's just a great funny guy.
Yeah. Oh man. Speaking of, I ended up watching because they added a bunch of movies to Netflix that are like my favorite movies, like Step Brother and especially Pineapple Express.
Oh man.
Like I can't tell you. While I was in Afghanistan, that was one of the movies that I had on my laptop, and I probably watched that thing like 30 times just to out of boredom, just watching that. But I never get tired of that movie. And the first scene in that movie with him in that bunker,
yeah,
smoking weed and he's like like it just cracks me up every time. Like he nails everything that he does.
I mean, it is a really good movie and it has a great cast too.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, like everything that Seth Rogen and James Franco do together is just great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Danny McBride is great in that too.
Oh yeah. I like that whole group.
Mm-hmm.
That they all do movies together.
Oh yeah. Like I feel like Danny McBride is kind of one of the unsung heroes of a lot of movies. Like he's very rarely like the star of anything, but everything he's in is just great. Oh, like yeah. Vice Principals.
Oh man, Vice Principals was so good. Have they done anything else with it since season 2?
Not that I know of.
Because they did have a season 2.
Mm-hmm, they did.
That was a good show. I want to say the seasons for it came out around Game of Thrones time, or maybe shortly after Game of Thrones. Previous seasons.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like
so
it was a little bit after the season 7 of Game of Thrones, I think, was season 2.
We might be seeing it again soon.
Yeah,
I hope, because it did leave a cliffhanger at the end of season 2, didn't it? Or it at least left it open to continue. Or
I'm pretty sure, yeah. As I recall.
Okay, so yeah, I actually remember reading this whenever it came out. Vice Principals won't return for season 3 on HBO, but that was the plan all along.
Okay.
Like they were planning on finishing it at the end of season 2.
Okay.
It did have a very definitive ending, though. Now that I remember about it, or remember it, with that stalker teacher that was was trying to kill him and everything, and they ended up killing her at the end there. I think Russell killed her or something.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I completely forgot what happened at the ending, but it did have a pretty definitive ending. He became principal. Russell became principal somewhere else or something, and
I tell you, it's one of those things where HBO has always had like a very high level of quality to their shows, to the point where most everything they put out is very good.
Yeah.
Like everything might not be, in your particular taste or something that you particularly might enjoy, but everything is of a really good quality.
AMC has done pretty well with that for not being a paid network like that.
Yeah. I mean, they have put out some pretty, monumental shows lately.
Yeah. Well, they did. I mean, they're still doing The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
It just won't die.
Yeah. It won't. Yeah, we've talked about The Walking Dead before on previous episodes, just how I feel about it. I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, I kind of feel like at a certain point, like it makes sense to stray from the source material. But at this point, I feel like they've strayed so far from the source material. It's like, well, where are you even going with this?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It may have picked up since I stopped watching it. I do eventually plan on going and watching it. Like once it hits Netflix or something, I'll probably watch it then. But as far as keeping up with it week to week, it got just kind of mundane, like waiting for nothing to happen.
Well, it's like at this point they've pretty much burned like every storyline from the comics to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, freaking! What's that other show with the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fighting?
Oh, Into the Badlands.
Yeah, Into the Badlands.
Oh man,
I saw that. Season 3 is on Netflix now.
Oh, is it?
It's on somewhere.
I've actually not watched season 3. I actually wasn't really aware of it coming out.
Yeah, I actually didn't finish season 2. Like I was busy at the time when those episodes were coming out, but season 2 and season 3 are on, I want to say Netflix.
Okay.
Because that's usually where AMC shows end up.
Oh, so season 3 is actually ongoing, it looks like?
Oh, it's still going right now?
Yeah.
Shit, where did I see it then? Maybe it was Hulu if it was showing season 3. I don't know. But that show is really good. I really like the fighting scenes in that. But I'm also a huge like old school like kung fu movies and stuff like that. And it really gives that kind of vibe. Speaking of kung fu movies, there's been talks about Kung Fu Hustle 2 coming out.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. So,
but there's been talks about there being a Kung Fu Hustle 2 before. So hopefully they bring it out. That's one of my favorite like parody kind of kung fu movies because it has some very ridiculous, funny moments, especially the fight scenes.
Yeah, like definitely, there's some really good kung fu movies out there. Like I definitely, to a certain extent, I definitely like a lot of the older stuff that like Jackie Chan did.
Yeah,
like especially like the older like stuff that was actually in Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Like before he really started like acting over here.
Yeah,
like some of that stuff is just amazing.
Oh yeah, the original Drunken Master that he did.
Oh yeah, the original is so much better than the remake.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, like definitely some amazing stuff. And sometimes it comes across almost as a comedy, just in the way that it's laid out and the tone of it. Like it's still a serious action movie, but like it has some very light comical moments just in the way that things transpire, like the way that the actors move. Yeah.
But then it captures like this, like how detrimental it is to his health and everything. the people worried about him drinking as much as he is, especially in the original. Yeah. It wasn't so much in the remake, but the original, like they were like, you can't be drinking like that. You're gonna kill yourself.
Right.
And yeah, it is just, that movie's a roller coaster of how you feel about it. You're like, oh man, he's kicking ass, he's drunk, but he's like, he is fucked up. Like he's in bad shape because of it.
So there's actually one in particular, one Jackie Chan movie that always really tickled me. I think over here it was released as Fearless Hyena.
Never saw that.
The thing that's funny about it is like the martial arts style or whatever that he has to learn to like win the day in the end is like emotional kung fu.
What?
So it's like kung fu using the emotions.
Oh wow.
And like the final fight scene is just hilarious.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's like he'll go through stuff like happiness where he's just like overjoyed, like huge grin on his face, just like really animated, or like goes through like sadness where he's like all mopey and everything.
That sounds familiar, like just describing like he's just changing his fighting style based on his emotion.
Yeah.
That sounds really familiar. I might have seen that.
Like it is really good, and whether you've seen it or not, definitely worth rewatching.
Yeah. Oh man, Ip Man movies were pretty good. Kung fu movies too. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed those. They keep making more.
Oh yeah.
Like there's so many Ip Man movies now, and I think I've only seen the first 3, maybe 4. There might be more than that now.
I've only seen 3.
Yeah, I want to say there was at least 4.
I'm not sure offhandedly,
but I know I've seen some. I've seen some of them that I just haven't watched. Like I saw them on where they could be watched. I just don't remember how many. Oh, there's 4. So I've seen 3. I haven't seen the 4th one.
Okay.
Master Z, the Ip Man Legacy. That actually came out last year. So they're still making new Ip Man movies.
So for that matter, have you ever seen, or no, I think we actually watched it together one time. Man with the Iron Fists.
Yeah.
The one starring RZA.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Man, that was actually really good.
Yeah, it was.
Like even the sequel to it was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So you saw the whole thing with Notre Dame.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Really, really horrible stuff. And I think the last that I read on it, like they were still ruling it as accidental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that it had something to do with the reconstruction or like renovating, that something, the fire was caused from something with that.
Yeah.
So I mean it happens. It's an old building.
Oh
it's
yeah.
a really old building. I don't know how old it is.
I'm not even sure offhandedly, but I mean hundreds of years old.
Yeah. I mean it's a national landmark.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For them. So like it being a church like beside or anything like that's a national landmark for.
Although I will point out, it might be a little awkward watching the Hunchback of Notre Dame now.
Yeah, because it did catch fire.
Well, it wasn't the cathedral itself so much as like the surrounding area.
Yeah,
but even still, like that whole thing might feel a little off at this point, especially like with the song "Hellfire" and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a very large focus on like burning Paris and fires and such.
Yeah.
On the part of Frollo.
Yeah. I don't know. Was there ever anything like that with history?
I'm not sure offhandedly.
Yeah.
I know that was, I mean, from the Victor Hugo novel, but I'm not sure if Victor Hugo had based that on a particular historical event.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about French history or
like I know some of the parts that were more like world focused, like that had more bearing on like the world at large, like Napoleon or like the Bastille or things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with other parts though.
Yeah. The most I remember from like world history in high school was mostly to do with Napoleon and the French helping us in the Revolutionary War.
Right.
I think heard more about France in U.S. history than I did in world history, because we just hopped from one place to another constantly.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think is kind of lacking in most public education systems. And I don't know, maybe it's just the public education around here, like in the Southeast. But,
yeah.
Like I feel like there's not really a lot of focus on world history.
No.
Like, I mean, it's there, but you kind of only go over the barest details, like just a gist of what's happened in the world, more or less.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe a couple of bits here and there.
Yeah.
But
might get like a week on World War II. Might get like, a week on World War One.
Largely anything that predates U.S. history, it's just kind of like gloss over.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was.
So
they focus on, spent a lot of time on U.S. history.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
A lot of time. Like there were definitely multiple years where social studies was exclusively U.S. history.
Yeah,
and there was even one year where social studies was exclusively South Carolina history.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I was living in Alabama my senior year.
Yeah,
and I learned so much about Alabama. Like, but I forgot it all.
it's important to know those things, but I feel like there's almost too much focus on like ourselves locally, like state and country, and not enough focus on the world at large.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
like we didn't learn a whole lot about politics, though. I feel like we didn't like, while we learned about our history and stuff like that, we didn't learn about like how to vote or like even to do. I feel like that should be something that's taught.
Well,
at least a little bit.
I do recall when I was in elementary school. I believe it would have been the 19. Well, I guess kind of leading towards the 1996 election. Like maybe it was like in 1995. I think that sounds about right. There was actually a mock election that we held in our school.
Okay.
So I did at least get
a
little bit. But that being said, it was still, I mean, not really a good description of the process or how everything works. And I still feel like most people kind of get left out in the dark when it comes to like, okay, well, you're of age to vote now. Like, go out there and do it.
Yeah. But that was like what you said in elementary school when you did that. Like,
yeah. And I don't
so
recall,
far separated from like the time period that I guess because of the election at the time. But there's elections like almost every year. But
even like the 2000 election, like I don't recall anything like that.
Yeah, me neither. In high school,
I mean, I paid attention to it. Like, you know, I talked about it with my friends at the time, but there was nothing like school wise, I don't think, that really discussed or looked into or talked about voting. And yeah, that was in high school.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right around the corner, like, I mean, I voted in the next election.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, it definitely feels like, at least around here, that, you know, there's not always a good preparation for people to be able to get into the voting world.
Yeah. I feel like that's a major, like, determinant, like, for a lot of people is it's too much. Like, they're almost afraid to get out there without, like, afraid to look up the information on how to do it. And and like it's this big scary thing when it really isn't. It's a very simple process, and you can even register online. You don't have to go to the DMV to do it, at least not here.
And I don't really want to play party politics here or point fingers or anything, but just an observation at least. I think that in general, Republicans don't want younger people to vote.
Yeah.
Because the Republican Party is a very old party, like demographically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of polls show that, I mean, obviously not all young people are more left thinking, but more young people are left thinking than are right thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that I think that's a large part of why the Republicans are against immigration. A large part of why they probably, and not openly, are against like the younger vote is because those are two demographics that are more against them than with them.
Yeah. I do give props to the younger generation, like right now, the people that are in high school and graduating high school now, or have recently graduated. Like, there's been a lot of protests and walkouts and everything because of things that aren't getting done, like school shootings getting taken care of, gun violence and even students walking out for their teachers that are not getting paid right.
And one thing that I think is also kind of happening in younger demographics is kind of a rejection of this idea of party politics.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, that's awesome. I'm all for it. Like,
I wish I was like that when I was almost 15 years younger.
But yeah, I mean, it's just there's so much that it just gets in the way of. I mean, because it becomes so much about us versus them, and you can never get anything done that way.
Yeah,
or at least nothing, meaningful.
Yeah, and these young adults, they're looking at the world, not just our country, even too. Like they're wanting to help the environment for the entire world. They want to get on that train and make the world better for everybody, not just the people around us or our party or just our country.
Right. I mean, and really, that's what we should be moving towards. I mean, I'm not saying, we'll give up our sovereignty or anything.
No.
I mean, at the very least, we probably should, be more active in the UN. The UN really should be a larger force in the world, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the military sense of like policing everything, but
in a humanitarian way.
Like, yeah, I mean, like working as like a bridge between governments to be able to have a net benefit for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. But it seems weird to me that we're separating ourselves from other countries, whether it be the Muslim ban or the trade embargoes, and
it definitely feels like there are certain people in power in this country that are trying to return us to an isolationist stance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where basically the whole nationalist, I don't know what to call it, a party, the whole nationalist group that wants to focus on us.
Well, see, isolationism didn't really work out for us before.
No.
Like, there's a reason we went away from it. And everything, like with the speed of information, like in communication these days, globalization is so much more important now than it has ever been.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no way that isolationism is a good policy.
No.
Like, even in small part, like we're a part of the global economy, and we need to start thinking that way.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Like just isolating ourselves hurts our citizens, hurts us. Like, but because if trade is not completely open and fairly done, like the prices of everything that we consume and need to live goes up.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The thing is, like, the powers that be currently, the one sitting in power who I'm not going to name. Small aside, I was having a conversation earlier this week and came to realize that there is, a certain person who I won't say his name here that really is just out for attention and will pretty much do or say anything he can in order to get attention and get his name out there. Yeah. And so really, the worst thing that you can do to him, like the thing that would hurt him more than anything else, is just not to acknowledge him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because that's all he really cares about.
Yeah.
So anyway, the powers that be seem to have this misconceived notion that even in economics, it's all us versus them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all like a zero-sum game. Like, if we're not at a surplus against every other country in the world, then we're losing. Which makes no sense at all.
Yeah. No sense.
I mean, all in all, like, globalization is happening. It's going to be moving forward whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
And so we need to start thinking globally so that we don't get left behind.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite, like, fantasy world wise, Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
The world that, like, what Earth is. Like, they're
Yeah, the Federation.
Yeah. Like, there's peace. Like, everybody is taken care of. It's a very...
Although, I will point out, there is one thing that makes that possible in the Star Trek universe.
What's that?
That is their ability to basically create food.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a need for resources anymore because they can basically just make the resources they need.
Yeah.
And I do think that would be essential to any kind of utopic society like that.
I never thought of that. Like, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, because I mean, they don't even have to cook anymore.
No.
Like, they have the recombinator or whatever they call it. Like, they just basically say, "Hey, I want
the
this."
replicator.
Oh, replicator.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I think some other setting says recombinator or something
Maybe.
like that. But yeah, the replicator, it's basically just, "Hey, I want this food," and it takes, whatever source molecules or whatever and just transforms them into whatever it is you wanted.
Yeah.
Because they have this technology that's basically mastered the transmutation of one bit of matter into another bit of matter.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, all matter is essentially the same, and you no longer have to care about resources because any matter can be any other matter.
Yeah. And I think they have they must have like a tank or something with this matter stored in it, because they
right.
I do remember some episodes where they weren't able to get supplies and they had to ration their replicator.
And the thing is, like, think about this, because it's maybe not a pleasant thought for a lot of people, but if you have that level of technology, there's no reason why you couldn't take all of your waste and then turn that into whatever you needed.
Maybe they can. I don't know.
Well, I mean, because it's like one of the principal like things about physics and the way that the world works as we know it.
Yeah.
Is that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Like, it all goes somewhere.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why, if you could convert matter into whatever else you wanted it to be, that you couldn't just keep that in a complete cycle.
Huh. I wonder if that's like even been thought of on the show.
Mean, I don't know. But I mean, that's about the only way that you could really explain the replicator.
Yeah. Huh. Or maybe it was an energy issue. I don't remember. I do remember some episodes on different Star Treks where they had to ration.
Well, yeah, and there's definitely some reasons why, like, maybe the technology wasn't working, or there was some kind of glitch in the system maybe that prevented it from functioning properly.
And, like, I think it might have been Voyager. Voyager went through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Getting stuck out in deep space, like, way far away from anything that is even charted.
But, if we had that level of technology to basically rewrite matter as we saw fit, then, I mean, that solves the majority of the world's problems. Because, I mean, you no longer have these wars over oil or whatever, because it doesn't matter, because we can turn anything into oil.
Yeah. That'd be cool. We just need to find a source of dilithium crystals.
Yeah, that's all we need. We'll
be okay. We'll figure it out from there.
or we at least need a blueprint for dilithium crystals so that we can turn stuff into them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of far flung and no guarantee that it's ever even going to be possible.
Yeah, yeah. It'd be cool though. It'd be cool though if we could just have that problem just completely taken away.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't have to worry about food, because that would, or any resource really, like that would.
I mean, the need for resources, I would say, is the primary cause behind conflict. Like that's the primary reason why, historically speaking, humans have fought against each other, is for resources.
Yeah.
And that may be water, that may be food, that may be like, access to certain materials that they use for like weapons or clothing or shelter or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but it all kind of boils down to resources. Now, there were definitely some other things that cropped up later, like ideological differences.
Yeah. Oh man.
But I kind of feel
That's
like
still going on today.
It is still going on today. But I definitely feel like if you took that need for resources out of the equation, a lot of that would cool down.
Yeah.
And it would kind of get to a point where I think people would start seeing that, this is dumb. Like, what's this even
fighting?
for?
Yeah. That's why I don't understand why everybody, or not, I say everybody a lot, but I don't mean it like that. You just see it a lot. You see it a lot in social media. You see it a lot on news sources and everything.
The perceived majority.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the majority, but it's what you see.
Yeah. It's what is delivered to us through media.
Mm-hmm.
But all the people that are against renewable resources.
Yeah. Like, well, it's because they're scared that it's going to take away jobs, or for some reason that it's gonna, like ruin all of these jobs that are there. It's not really gonna get
why
rid
can't
of
the
jobs.
It's gonna transition?
Exactly. It's gonna change jobs. It's not really losing jobs.
Yeah. Like I don't get it. Like people are still gonna need to maintain solar panels. People are still gonna need to maintain windmills.
Absolutely.
Hydro plants, whatever.
And even beyond that, the infrastructure to be able to deliver, like from a solar farm or a wind farm, like to everywhere else, like that needs upkeep and maintenance and new construction.
Yeah. Yeah. And then expansion. And then also research and development to make those sources be able to store more, be able to collect more from the exact same amount.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, the idea that this is somehow just like, decimating the jobs market is just, it's just bogus.
Yeah. Like, well, why decimate the planet?
Right.
By getting the fossil fuels and stuff like that. Why can't we not hurt the planet, not hurt our ecosystem, our environment? Why not get away from that and get the same amount of energy? I don't know the numbers or anything on the amount of energy that can be like obtained through those sources, but eventually you would think that we would be able to make it better, but with jobs, with people in those jobs to figure it out.
Although I think at the core of the whole like anti-renewable resources thing, like the whole like, oh, we have to stick hardcore to coal and stuff like that, like all of that just comes from greed, really.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason why these people that are so concerned with keeping things the way they are to quote unquote save jobs are somehow not at all concerned with automation doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are pushing for automation just because it adds efficiency, which makes things cheaper to produce, which means that the top end can get more money.
Yeah. And being automated, it's faster. You don't have to have somebody there pressing a button. And
again, like I'm not going to say, oh, well, we shouldn't automate, like it's going to be a bad thing and it's just going to lose us every job we've got. But, we should approach it with caution.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely should. Like there's definitely some good things in automation. I mean, hell, I used to write macros for one of my jobs in accounting when I was younger.
Yeah.
And like nobody else thought of it, but I was like, I can shave off 2 hours worth of work by just automating this.
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's built into the software that you're putting me on. Like I could just do it.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Like there's some great things that can happen with it. And, you know, when properly utilized, it can be a great tool to be able to further the economy even.
Mm-hmm.
But my concern is that companies won't take those precautions. They're just going to be like, okay, well, let's just throw this in there and we'll just get rid of, you know, say all of the burger cooks in the country for McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's what they're trying to do, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of jobs that people need.
Oh yeah. A lot of entry level jobs.
Yeah.
Like jobs that don't require previous experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like that can be done by people that are just getting their first job or things like that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, people who haven't had the means to say, you know, get an education.
Yeah. No, I mean I tried to get a job at McDonald's once.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just didn't have a job. They turned me down. They told me that they didn't want me because I was overqualified.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't have a full education. I don't have a degree. Like, but I had a lot of experience in corporate,
right,
doing accounting and customer service and stuff like that. And I mean, I scored perfect on their test. Like, did pretty good with the interview, and they were like, "Oh, you're just overqualified." I'm like, I didn't have a job at that point for months, and couldn't even get a job at McDonald's entry level.
Yeah.
Like people need it. People need those kind of jobs, and
it almost seems like at times like they use that excuse whenever they're afraid of hiring somebody because they think that they might be smart enough to like complain about conditions or something like that, or like the pay, or, you know, maybe like actually clue other workers into like these things about, you know, that other people would otherwise be complacent and just accept.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
That's what they want.
I've always hated that whole argument, that whole like, oh, well, you're overqualified argument.
Yeah. I couldn't stay in corporate. Like I just felt like my soul was being sucked out. Not that I believe I have a soul or anything, but
but I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in corporate America that are really about trying to keep people in the dark about things.
Yeah.
Like there's so many companies that will tell you, like they'll even tell you to your face that you're not supposed to talk about your wages or your salary with other employees.
Yeah.
And not only is that not true, it's technically illegal for them to keep you from talking about your pay with other employees.
Yeah. Oh, we signed a thing that said we could get fired where I was working.
And that's technically illegal.
Yeah.
Like there's actually laws that are in place to prevent employers from preventing you from talking about your pay.
Yeah. But nobody does. And
for most people, they just think that's an actual thing.
Yeah.
Like they actually think, oh, well, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Oh yeah. Well, they push it on you. They definitely push it on you that you cannot talk about it, or you risk getting fired. And
that all just comes back down to they're afraid.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people talking about it, because then, you know, unequal pay like comes to light. Like, or, you know, people start complaining about, well, you know, I've been here for 5 years, 10 years or whatever. And there's this other guy that's barely been here and like, he's making more than me.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, they started the other guy at a lower wage because, you know, at the time, like a lower wage was more acceptable, and they've just avoided raising him up to a decent pay.
They don't adjust.
Yeah. And they don't want him to know, because if he knows, then, you know, he would either leave or they would have to pay him more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't want him to leave, because if they hire somebody new, they'd have to pay them more too.
Yeah. Like having like hundreds of millions in profits every year. where I was at, and we just I'm getting an extra $50 this next year a month.
Yeah,
extra $50.
Yeah, and I mean
for them making hundreds of millions of dollars in profit, like high numbers, and they're executives, like they get these massive bonuses.
And I think, for too long, it's people in these positions, like these CEOs and these leaders of these large corporations, for far too long have been allowed to basically run the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's getting to a point where the whole system exists just to keep people down, to keep people as just cogs in their money making machine.
See, that's with that, like, going back to like our school system,
mm-hmm.
It's not. School doesn't prepare you for the real world.
No,
at all.
It really doesn't.
But that's not what they wanted to prepare you for. They wanted to prepare you to do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask questions.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a third thing. Don't have one. But that's basically it.
The third one is always the most difficult to think of.
Yeah. But it's still just, I've always asked questions, but.
And you should.
And more so in recent years, but I was always told not to, like, at least at school, be like, well, why are we doing this?
Right.
I even experienced it in the Army too, where
mm-hmm.
I'm just like, why are we doing this? And then I get in trouble.
Well, and I kind of understand that mentality in the Army to an extent. It's just that simple, plain idea of you need to follow orders when I tell you to do them and never question it, because a moment's hesitation, especially in a combat situation, could be disastrous.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I never was like, oh, why do we have to do this? I was just like, well, wouldn't it be, I'd offer like a solution.
Right.
I'd be like, well, wouldn't it be more effective and better time management if we did this? But they're like, well, that's not important. This is what I said to do, but even though it's stupid.
It's just that's the whole like military system. It's like all the way up the chain. Like even the guys that you talk to, like about these ideas, like basically are having the same problems up the chain.
Yeah,
because they can't question anything above them.
Oh yeah. There's always somebody trying to prove a point.
And I mean, it makes sense to an extent, because in those combat situations, there's no time for debate. There's no time for discussing, okay, well, is this going to be better, or weighing options. Like a lot of times it just has to be snap decisions, and, we just have to go with whoever higher up says.
Yeah. A lot of times the higher up is stupid.
And sadly,
they make very bad decisions.
Sadly, that can be the case, but
yeah.
I mean, hesitation often can be at least as bad.
I know. Man, I ended up, I thought a lot of the stuff that we were doing, because I was a parachute rigger.
Right.
And I rigged aerial delivery in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And we were cranking out loads. Like we were getting multiple medals of achievement, stuff like that for breaking records.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. We had a very ambitious captain, and we had a very ambitious warrant officer.
Okay.
So like you can become a warrant officer after, like, once you hit E6, you become eligible for it, and there has to be a position open for you to even have a chance to get it. But we had you always have a warrant officer for riggers, for a rigger shed and everything. I don't know about the rest of the Army. I know there's warrant officers for everyone, but like you always had to have an NCO in charge, and like a first sergeant, or not first sergeant, but sergeant first class.
Yeah,
and a warrant officer, like, in charge of the shed. You always had both.
Okay.
But our warrant officer, he very ambitious, like wanted to pad his resume. Our captain, she wanted to pad her resume,
Mhm.
and worked us to the fucking bone. Like we were cranking out loads. I'd go 3-4 days without sleeping. I would choose to like take a nap instead of eating for some of the meals. And I'd just go multiple days at a time like that. But we were breaking records. We were delivering food and water to soldiers. We did a very few humanitarian drops.
Mhm.
Mostly we were dropping to the guys out on the front line, mostly.
Yeah.
And after I got injured and schizophrenia started and everything over there,
Mhm.
on my way back, I was in Germany, and my roommate was an MP that he got blown up with an IED and had a really bad concussion. He actually got to go back.
Mhm.
He wasn't too bad off. He got really lucky, and he ended up going back. But he was telling me, he's like, oh man, like we collected your loads all the time.
Yeah.
And like we would even leave like little notes, just being like, hey, hope you enjoy, stuff like that. We'd leave it in the loads or like tape to it or something like that, just to show that like people care what they're doing, I guess. But he was like, do you know how many of those like pallets of loads of water that you dropped we just threw in the burn pit because we had too much water?
Oh, wow.
We didn't have places to store it. So we were just dropping like thousands of gallons of water like multiple times a day to these bases and stuff that they were holed up in and everything. And they calculated at one time that they had so much water that they weren't going to be able to use to fill up like 3 swimming pools, like full size, like your normal swimming pools, like 9 foot deep, like shallow end, deep end, like a personal swimming pool, 3 or 4, I don't remember, but like, what the fuck? They were just dumping food and water into burn pits just because they didn't have places to store it, because we were dropping so much and breaking records.
Wow.
To pad 2 people's resumes, basically. Yeah.
And it's just people more concerned with their personal benefit than, doing what's right or efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like right there, I was like, we're wasting money over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just wasting it to help people's careers.
Well, and I mean, military waste is a huge problem. And in no small part due to the fact that our military is grossly overfunded.
Yeah.
Like grossly overfunded. Like we put more money into our military by far than any other country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really saying something, considering there are militaries that are way larger, like say China's.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a ridiculous amount of money into the military.
Yeah.
And certain people would see that increased even further.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, I remember the press conferences with military leaders and troops and everything in the past few years, where it's like, oh, I'm increasing funding to the military. We're buying these new planes. We're doing all this stuff. We're increasing funds. Like, no, we need to get away from that because we're wasting a shit ton of money with it.
Or even the idea of just leaving guns and ammunitions in countries that we're leaving just because it's not worth the hassle to ship back.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, in our prep to deploy and everything, we were taught that like almost all the weapons that they're using were left over from the Russians leaving it behind. And we're just leaving stuff over there too.
Yeah.
So
I mean that's the kind of thing that happens when you have just such a huge spending cushion. It's like, okay, well, why bother shipping all this stuff back? Because we're just ordering, hundreds of thousands of more guns anyway.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I mean, that's That's the thing. Like, so much of that money just gets funneled out into certain industries. And the sad thing is, with the way that everything's structured, just like with most corporations, the majority of that money is going straight to the top.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a really roundabout way for the government to give kickbacks to their rich buddies.
Yep. That's what Boeing is a pretty big vendor for the military with planes and jets and stuff. I don't know everything that they make, but they make a lot of. Doesn't Boeing make a lot of the combat planes and stuff?
I'm not terribly familiar
Who all
with
makes
it,
all
but
them?
I know they are one of the big manufacturers, and I'm certain that they do have at least a portion of that.
Yeah, yeah. Shit, they're one of the companies that's not paying taxes. They're not paying much compared to what they should be.
Although, in light of, I guess not terribly recent events, but the two planes crashing and everything, and the revelation after the fact that it's like, oh, well, there was this optional upgrade that would have told them that there was a malfunction in the system. Yeah. But, it was like I forget how expensive it was, but it was an actual paid upgrade.
Yeah.
And it's like,
for a security measure.
A security measure. It's like, how greedy do you have to be to risk safety like that just for the sake of getting maybe a few thousand more bucks? All of it.
All of the greed.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. Like, this kind of thing shouldn't be allowed.
No. And they tried to put it off on the government shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
When it happened.
Yeah. It's like,
I think we even talked about it on the podcast here.
Yeah, we did. But it's still just insane to me that this kind of stuff is just allowed to happen. And, and it's like, oh, well, I guess we'll just kind of turn a blind eye to this until there's some big news story, and then we have to act out of public outcry.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really what it is. Like, there's no accountability until this stuff gets out to the public.
Yeah.
And then they just basically act like, oh, well, if I wish we would have known so that we could have done something about it.
Yeah. But then back to, we get so much information so fast, and like that came out, on to the next thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a real problem. Like, just the speed of news, basically. All of these things get buried so quickly.
Like, it's hard to keep up with, like, for something like a weekly topical kind of show like this. It's hard to keep up with stuff like that, and you want to research some things, and sometimes I research something and we'd never bring it up just because, like, it's just, there's other things to talk about that it's kind of more important, but it's really not. It's just whatever's on our mind at the time, really.
Right. Absolutely.
Not always thinking about Boeing, but
but yeah, and it's just, it's why it's important to, keep talking about these things and don't just go on to the next sensational thing. Like, I mean, I guess part of the problem is there's so many public outcries these days that, even if you're really dedicated to something, there's just something else that deserves an equal amount of attention that pops up the next couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I could never do like what the YouTubers do, especially like the gaming YouTubers.
Oh, man.
Because they want to outrage over everything that happens
and
with anybody.
Even worse, because I kind of understand the strain, like, especially when you look at like gaming news channels, especially the ones that focus on one game or a couple of games at a time. It's a real struggle to get videos out as quickly as possible. And a lot of times that leads to misinformation. A lot of times that leads to more opinion-based reporting, because if they wait to get all of their facts and figure all of this out and get everything straight, then they're already behind and they're not getting the kind of views that they need.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as soon as they hear news, they got to get a video out.
Yep. And it's gotten me away from, I don't really keep up with YouTubers' news videos. Like, like Boogie, for example. I love Boogie. I like his channel. I like him. I like his Francis videos.
Yeah.
And I like his just personal videos that he does, where he just talks about stuff going on in his life with his gastric bypass surgery and going from morbidly obese, trying to lose weight and everything, and his mental health issues too, because he's very open about those as well.
Right.
And see, I like those kind of videos from him. Yes, Francis is always. I every time I see a new Francis video, I have to watch it. Which apparently he's going to be posting videos on Storyfire now.
Storyfire?
Yeah, I never heard of it until like 2 weeks ago or
I'm guessing
a week
some
ago.
Brand new sharing platform.
It's actually not. Like, it's a couple years old. Yeah, it's really.
Like, is it just supposed to be some competitor to YouTube, or
that's what they're trying to do?
Or is it going to be more like a competitor to TikTok, where it's like short clips?
Well, the thing is, like, so far there's been very little video on it. It's mostly like story based in like a text message format kind of deal. Like storytelling in that, so you can like put like say like Richard says this, Adam says this, narrator says this, like
okay.
And it's just all on one side. It's not like back and forth or anything,
right?
But it's kind of, it looks like a text message, like just feed coming at you with story and
okay.
like each person's
so it's not
lines.
even really a video format.
It wasn't, but they've been trying to. They have a few YouTubers that have transitioned over to it for their main, for like exclusive content to do videos. And they're running like some beta program to get new people. Boogie just got added to videos, and he did a Francis video that was like basically an advertisement for Storyfire.
Yeah.
And I don't know. If I can get my Francis videos on a regular basis and not have to wait like a month every time, because YouTube has completely demonetized Francis.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I guess just because they think that's a damaging ideal or something.
Yeah, they want to get away from rage videos and that kind of stuff, which that was YouTube.
I mean,
for the longest time.
It definitely was at a point. You know? Like the majority of gaming content, I would say, prior to like the Let's Play revolution of sorts, a lot of the gaming videos were rage focused.
Yeah, but they're wanting to get away from that. But back to the topic of the news and like the gaming news and the outrage and clickbait titles and just clickbait content, misinformation. It's completely like I've stopped watching YouTube as much just because of that.
Well, it's because they get so many more views out of negative opinions than they do positive opinions, I feel like. Yeah. And so there's so many of them that just tend towards negativity.
They have to stay on the algorithm, basically. Then that's they have to say those things in the videos that is trending on this negativity and hate to even be in the algorithm. But YouTube doesn't want hate and rage videos and stuff like that. Like it's hypocritical, really. And really, I think that it's a lot of that kind of sensationalism that's causing a lot of the problems in the gaming industry currently. Like, I think that's a large part of the reason why there's so much pressure on a lot of these studios, because, you know, it's as soon as the first thing is released about a game, there's just so much hype that builds into it. Yeah. So, you know, in all honesty, it's probably a good idea for studios going forward to not say anything about their upcoming projects until they're within a year of completion. Yeah.
Because otherwise they're going to start getting this pressure. It's like, oh, well, you know, everybody's talking about it. Like, they're interested in it now. We've got to get this out as soon as possible. You know, that's why I'm really liking how some developers are starting to only announce games when they're within a year of release.
Yeah, like Borderlands 3.
Yeah, like Borderlands 3. Like, it's already largely finished. Like, there's already a lot of thought and work that's gone into it before they said word one about it.
And they did a teaser trailer like less than a month ago, and that was the first teaser trailer.
Well, I mean, there was rumors, but that was the first official thing they've really said.
Yeah.
Like they had an announcement like within the week, I think, of the teaser trailer. But it's like that was the first official word there was that there was even going to be a game.
Yeah. Yeah. Because before that, like, it was still speculation on if they were going to be doing another single player co-op style or if they were going to go MMO.
Oh, yeah. And you know, actually, I've got to applaud, like, once again, Nintendo for having good business practices. In most cases, and there are some decisions, but in most cases, they're pretty good about not really saying anything about a game until it's relatively close to release.
Yeah.
Like Smash Brothers wasn't announced until, you know, within a handful of months of coming out.
Yeah.
Mario Maker 2 was not announced until within a few months of coming out. Like, they didn't officially announce anything about the new Pokemon generation until, you know, 8 months, I think, right about out.
Yeah.
You know, there are a few hiccups, like, say, Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
But they've basically said nothing about it even still.
Okay.
Like, they've basically had that little teaser image to basically say, this is something we're working on, and they have not given us another word about it yet.
Yeah.
Although that being said, it's almost 2 years now since that image.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, that's the direction I think gaming companies need to start moving towards, is trying to avoid this whole hype building thing, at least before you're already in the final processes.
Yeah.
Because that hype engine, like the YouTube algorithms and social media and everybody trying to get everybody's attention, like, it's just going to drive these ideas to insanity. Like, as soon as people hear about them, because it's always about, like, being the first talking about this, and, like, you know, building up this interest and trying to make all of this content while people are talking about it. And so you start setting up expectations that are unrealistic. You know, people start getting this idea of what they want the game to be.
Yo.
And, you know, a lot of times that doesn't really mesh with what the developer's making.
And then you're disappointed.
And people get disappointed.
Off of false expectations.
And then, you know, it goes over to the flip side, where when it doesn't live up to the hype that was built up by all of these people just trying to get interest, then they start trying to build interest off of hatred for the game.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that that's really hurting the gaming community at large.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, like, I remember seeing a bunch of articles whenever Sony said they're not going to be making an announcement at E3.
Well, they're not participating in E3 per se. I'm still almost certain that they're going to do what Nintendo's doing, because, I mean, that's why I believe that they started doing this PlayStation State of Play thing, is because they wanted to go ahead and get it started like a few months early, just to kind of get the kinks worked out, kind of get it rolling, get used to it and everything. And I do not doubt that we'll see one of those on E3 weekend.
Okay.
But they are not participating in E3.
Yeah.
Like, Nintendo does not participate in E3. They put out their own produced video during that time. And all in all, I kind of like that, because Sony especially has had some really awkward presentations at E3 before.
Yeah.
Even Nintendo has had some awkward presentations, like where you have these developers like trying to present the games in some kind of fantastical or interesting way, and sometimes it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, with these produced videos, they can actually, you know, produce the whole thing. They have control over everything that happens. They can kind of plan and get everything to look the way that they want it to look. And, you know, they don't have to worry about how it's going to come across live.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope Sony goes away from hyping games up. Cause I feel like they've done that with Days Gone coming out this month. I think it's coming out this month. The zombie,
either this month or May, but it's soon. Yeah, it's definitely soon.
But it's like a zombie shooter, kind of like Dark Souls kind of game,
right?
And I like Dark Souls-esque kind of games. Bloodborne is still one of my favorite games, and it's a PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah. And, eventually, and I don't know when, eventually I'm going to find the time to play Sekiro.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't bought it, but it's one of those games that's on my like wish list as far as like something I want to, if I ever get some downtime where I can really sit down and play it, I want to just bust it out.
Oh yeah. Although typically with the From Software games, like busting it out still is probably going to take a good long while.
Oh yeah, it's going to be like an 8-hour a day game. If it's anything like Bloodborne was for me, like every chance I got, like I was sitting down and playing that, and I played it till I beat it, and then continued to keep playing it to try and get all the trophies and everything, which I still never finished. But it is a game I wouldn't mind going back and playing because I haven't played the expansion for it.
Right. And
I have the expansion. I bought it while it was on sale.
Just never got around to getting into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad problem to have, but it's still a problem. There's so much that comes out these days that it's really impossible to keep up with it all.
Yeah. I stopped trying. I used to try, but I also had a lot more time than I do now.
Right.
But like this week, getting a new puppy.
Oh yeah.
I haven't played Final Fantasy 14 since like Friday.
Well, I suppose in the scheme of things, like it's not terribly important to do a whole lot.
No, I mean I'm just trying to max out all my jobs to get ready for the expansion in July.
Right. So I mean, like right now, like if ever there's a time to kind of like cool down on playing, like now would be it, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like I want to play.
Oh yeah. But it's not like you have anything pressing to do in order to kind of keep up with content.
Yeah. And I don't do in-game rating. I haven't last time I did in-game rating was DC Universe Online.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that game is fun though. The combat system in that game, because I brought it up last night while we were talking about WildStar. Because DC Universe kind of ruined the combat system for me for WildStar, because it felt like playing a fighter, like combos, like you just busting out combos, canceling and canceling animations to keep a combo going and to keep your cooldowns completely like in line. You just busting out combos. I loved it.
Right.
And just nothing was doing that for me. I was trying to play everything else. I think I went to Guild Wars 2 or something, maybe.
Or
was Guild Wars 2
Guild Wars 2 was before that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You may have gone back.
Maybe
to
I
Guild
went
Wars
back
2.
to it.
But yeah, Guild Wars 2 was definitely before that.
Yeah, because it was before Final Fantasy 14 came out.
Well, before it came out.
Yeah, because it came out in 12 or 11.
That sounds right.
2012, I think, for Guild Wars.
That sounds about right.
But yeah. Oh shit!
I know. Look at the time.
Wow.
I tell you, like always, the time just kind of flies by.
Yeah. I kind of had some stuff to talk about with mental health, but I guess I'm gonna save that for next week, because it's my personal experience with stigma and the detriments of stigma within families.
Right. Definitely important stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so we'll leave you with that cliffhanger, I guess, if it's much of a cliffhanger. But
yeah, it's building up that interest.
Oh yeah,
gotta talk about our episodes.
Yeah, I got to talk about my fucked up brain next week.
Well, anyways, thanks for joining us this week, and I hope you join us again next week when we have something more to podcast.